Are you ready to turn your potential into performance? If so, you're in the right place. This is the Coach Bru Show, and here's your host, John Brubaker.
Could you walk the 2,175-mile Appalachian Trail in its entirety? Welcome to the Coach Bru Show, Performance Report, episode number 509. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/coachbrew. There's over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Does anyone even still have an MP3 player anymore? That's what they want me to read, but I'm thinking you're probably going to use an iPhone, an Android, or a Kindle. Anyway, let me ask you the heck question again. Could you walk the 2,175-mile Appalachian Trail in its entirety from Spring Mountain, Georgia to Mount Katahdin, Maine? How about this? What if you were blind? How about then? You're probably thinking, of course not. Well, each year, millions of people hike part of the Appalachian Trail. About 50,000 people attempt what's called a through hike, which is walking the entire 2,175 miles of the trail from Spring Mountain, Georgia to Mount Katahdin, Maine. About only 8,000 of those 50,000 finish the hike in its entirety. And only 5, not 5,000, only 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those 8,000 were blind. Trevor Thomas was the first of 5 blind people to complete the entire Appalachian Trail. And here's the kicker. He did it alone. On April 6, 2008, some friends started the hike with him in Springer Mountain, Georgia, but dropped off as they fatigued or the trail got too tough for them. And I share all this with you because, believe it or not, you're actually in this story. So track along with me here. Trevor Thomas kept going without them. Not just without them, though. Without a seeing eye dog and without a GPS or a braille map or anything like that. Basically, his GPS was following the other hikers he heard and met on the trail. And then reading the writing on the trail signs he encountered by running his fingers on the grooves of the letters of these wooden trail signs. They weren't in braille. When Thomas got lost, he'd ask a hiker who came by to verify his location and just confirm if he was headed in the right direction. Can you imagine that? Now on this journey, Trevor had a chipped bone in his hip, cracked ribs, and he stopped counting how many times he fell after about 3,000. When he neared the summit of Mount Katahdin, Thomas encountered some dangerous ice, and it was at this point that his trekking poles broke. There are other hikers on the summit, and they're already up there, and they're making as much noise as possible. They heard about him and what he was doing. They made as much noise as they could so he would know where exactly the summit was, because he couldn't see it, but he could hear them. And then he would know that they were cheering him on. And on this final stretch, when he couldn't walk on the ice because it was too slippery, he didn't have any traction, he used the broken trekking poles as ice picks to climb up the last few feet to the top. It's an amazing story. Now, what motivated him to do this? This is part of the reason why I say we're all in this story, folks. Shortly after losing his vision at age 35, Trevor went to hear another blind man give a speech. He didn't want to leave the house. One of his friends said, "Hey, we're going to listen to this guy speak." He didn't even tell Trevor it's another blind man. He certainly didn't tell Trevor the topic of the speech. He just made him go and get out of the house for his own good. Well, the speaker's name was Eric Wayenmeyer, and he had just climbed Mount Everest. He's blind. So hearing this made Thomas think, wow, not as bad off as I thought. If he can climb Mount Everest, there's no reason why I can't do whatever I want to accomplish in life. Now, what really struck me was after he reached the summit, when he climbed Mount Katahdin and finished the entire Appalachian Trail, there's a TV reporter there interviewing him. And he asked Thomas how he did it. And his 5-word response to the reporter left me absolutely thunderstruck. All he said to him was, "One step at a time." And that's why you're in this story too. Because life's trails are full of surprises and are not easy to navigate. Yet the most rewarding ones are the most challenging ones. They're going to be filled with twists, turns, peaks, and valleys. And you can best handle these challenges by following in the footsteps of someone who has seen success doing what you're attempting, and by having a tried and true process to follow. There's one person in particular I want to highlight. And it's a client I have who's fairly early in her career and is relatively successful, but hasn't quite risen to that next level expected of her at this stage in her profession. She had the benefit of lucking into some great referrals simply through personal relationships. So early in our coaching process, I asked her, well, what happens when that dries up? Which eventually it will. Those referrals. You could hear a pin drop. She had no answer, which was actually, in fact, a very revealing answer, the silence. See, she had no tried and true process to follow. That is, until she got herself a coach. So the takeaway here is, if you can't describe what you or your people are doing as a step-by-step process, you don't truly know what you're doing. You're just shaking that magic 8-ball and hoping for good results. Disclaimer, sorry, but hope isn't a very effective business strategy. Now, you can't expect to succeed at something difficult without a plan, a system, and preparation or training. And Trevor Thomas, I shared that story with you about Trevor Thomas hiking the entire Appalachian Trail blind because he didn't just throw on a backpack and some hiking boots, head out his front door, and start out hiking the trail. He studied what he needed to learn and know for about 18 months leading up to his journey before he ever hit the trail. Emergency medicine, what he needed to pack, how to navigate the trail, trial runs on different trails to just get a sense of different footing. You name it, how to deal with weather, the elements. It's pretty amazing. But here's the thing, the hours, weeks, and months of preparation were all part of the process of taking it one step at a time. So the bottom line is this. There's certain step-by-step fundamentals to success in anything, whether it's hiking the Appalachian Trail blind, performing your job as a sales professional, writing a book, coaching your team to a championship, whatever it is. Certain fundamental steps you got to follow. Be present in the moment, one step at a time. How? By focusing on the process and just keep moving. Because here's the thing. Effort will release its reward only after you refuse to quit. Too many people quit too early, or they quit because they're not seeing any results. Just because you're not seeing results doesn't mean there isn't growth taking place. You have to trust the process because your aspiration's only limited by your imagination. I'll say that again. Your aspiration is only limited by your imagination. So here's my question for you. What's one step more that you need to take today? We'll continue this conversation in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Coach Brew Show. This has been the Performance Report, episode number 509. And we'll catch you next week. Make it a great one.
Thanks for listening to The Coach Brew Show. If you're not currently subscribed to the podcast, sign up now on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. And for more information to turn your potential into performance, head on over to coachbrew.com now.